Tucson International Academy. I am Pastor John McLean here with our favorite, with the long resume and many degrees after her name, like a thermometer. She is the superintendent of Tucson International Academy, the author of the book that this show is named after, Making College Come True, 10 Keys to Success, and a former educator with Tucson Unified School District, and the newest talk radio show host in the fair city of Tucson, Arizona. And she goes by the name Dr. Jennifer Herrera.
Yay.
Yeah,
Hello.
Dr. J in the house.
Good to be here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And we got a party going on in this studio today, because she brought, I think, every single teacher on the left wing of Midvale to come and party and be here, because we have Mr. Goris in the house, and Mr. Goris is like a show favorite. He's like, they call him Mr. G on the streets.
Oh,
there you go.
Absolutely. And then we have Mrs. Stevens here, who is she's going to be a fan favorite. I could see it in her eyes. There's a fire that burns. and I've heard from a little bird. It was a very small bird. She's from Canada.
Yes, sir.
Have you heard
that
something
is correct.
like that? Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And there's someone to your left shoulder here who doesn't have a mic in front of her, but
yes,
she has
Rosa Medina.
Yeah.
Torres. Rosa
Absolutely.
Medina Torres.
Yep. So we got a
awesome
Tucson International Academy party
yes.
going on. But before we get to these awesome people and these amazing teachers, we have actually a point to talk about today on the show. On the Making College Come True radio show, we got to educate people on how to make college come true.
That's right.
And the big tip, the key of the day, as we'll say, out of your book, Making College Come True, 10 Keys to Success, is you're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong place. And I know to you that rings a loud bell. And
Well, it happens occasionally.
Yeah. And most of us we're here in studio who haven't read your book. I don't know who in here hasn't. I've read it actually, but those who haven't read the book are thinking this probably came up in their life where they're thinking, I'm in the wrong place. Whether like you mentioned in your book, or there's a class, like, is this the right class that I'm in? Or, you went to a party where you're just like, is this the right party? You go to an address and you look at the address, you're like, is this the correct address to this place? I'm in the wrong place. So, in that being said, in your book, Making College Come True, you say you dealt with this situation where you knew you were in the wrong place, and that shaped your future. Tell us about that.
Well, that's been several times in my life. I'm trying to think which one I referenced in there.
It was why you chose your profession. Or why you chose your degree, I think you chose.
My first degree. Yep. So that happened, and there was evidence, and I think that's the point that I'm saying in the book, that when you have intuition, there are usually a lot of mile markers around you. If you'll just open your eyes and be sensitive to it, you'll see evidence that, hey, this is not the right path. And so for me, my family is a bunch of teachers. I mean, a bunch of teachers. My grandma, my great-grandma, my mother, my dad was on the school board. I mean, we did school. School was very important and a big part of our lives. And I knew that it was a good living, but I knew that if you wanted to get ahead in life, that you would need a second income. Like you would need, another spouse, to really contribute. And so that was always a thought that, alone, education is not a huge money maker, which is true, but not true at the same time. There are many things you can do about that. But so I thought, when I went to college, I am not going to do the family route of education. Even though I was good with kids, even though I had all this experience, even though it was my safe, easy place, I decided I would consider another path. And I thought, what's the other one in my family's business? Everybody owns their own business where I'm from. And sometimes they own 2 or 3 businesses, and some of them are good and some of them are not so good, but you own several for that reason, because there's not a one fixed answer. And so I like business for that, because business gives you options in life and you can change what you're doing. I'm not one that will go to a job stay there with the same place with the same people for 40, 50 years like they used to do. Our generation, my generation even, doesn't do that. Like where I think they say average number of jobs or career fields people my age, which I'm in my 50s, would have
they
is
don't
like
believe
4.
you. The people watching at home don't believe you.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm 50 in age, but I am like 36 forever because I always forget that I'm older.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's because that's how I live as a 36-year-old. But as I was saying, that there's mile markers, that say, maybe you're not in the right one. And so knowing that, my age group does 4 or 5 different career paths, that was comforting to me. But some people like that steady, consistency. But these days that isn't, like, things change. Technology changes too fast. So how would you know you're in the wrong place? I was in college. I was taking classes for business. And I mean, first class I went to was a business class, and I was excited. And so I went in and I met the professor. The professor came literally up to me. He's a man, and he's kind of like that man that embodies everything negative about business, kind of overbearing, kind
like
of brute
greed
force.
is good type guy.
Yeah, he was that guy. He said, are you in the right place? I'm thinking, wait, is he talking to me? There's like 150 people in here. I said, yes, this is Business 101. And he said, are you going to try to be a business person? I said, yes. Like, is that the right answer? And he said, I'll tell you what, I think you better reconsider, because he said something like, you're too short, you're female, and you're not really looking the part of business. So I think, well, good luck, basically is what he said. And I got a C in his class. And of course, the whole time, every time I went to that class, I was like, I am in the right place, right? I never quite caught on to what he was saying, and I just thought that was bigoted talk that he was saying before, because I never have really been one that was totally influenced by someone saying something negative about me, which has actually been a great thing.
Yeah.
But it did bother me. I was like, man, he's not even for me, and here I'm paying him money for my class, and he's not for me. I don't like that. And then I went to some other classes, and we did advertising, and it was fun, but I was definitely kind of bored with the material, and I participated in making a commercial, and that part was fun. But after that, I didn't enjoy the other little tiny things you have to do with it, all the details. So I learned quickly I'm not really a detail person, and the business track at that college was very detail oriented. So I was kind of striking out. I was getting C's and D's in all my classes, and I had just started college. And so I went to the College Career Center because my mom begged me to, took a career test, and they said, you ready for your results? And I go, yeah, as long as they don't say education. And the little girl just sat there silent. I said, okay, so it says education. And she goes, well, about 5 different ways. I said, oh, great. Okay. She said, why don't you just take one class in education? And I took that class, and all of my classmates were like, oh, I can't do this. I don't understand. What does that teacher want? Oh, my God. And then I just thought, my God, this was so easy for me. I pulled it together, nothing. I got an A+. I got straight A+, not just A's. I got A+. And so then I was like, you know what? Why was I resisting so much? This is fun. This is what I signed up for. This is college that I want. So I decided to be a teacher.
That was perfect. Man, that was amazing. With right as we're going into the break, you really encapsulated everything we needed to encapsulate for those that may be in the wrong place.
Yep.
So if
you can get signs. Read the signs. Read your
Awesome.
Teachers, read your mentors, read your classes.
Read the signs, and we will be back back after this break with more with Dr. J. Brought to you by Tucson International Academy. I am Pastor John McClain, no affiliation, but I am here with Dr. J, full affiliation, the superintendent of Tucson International Academy, and I get the pleasure of joining her every week.
Yay.
Unless she's super busy, which happens as well.
And then you get to wing it. It's wonderful.
I'm getting really good at it, though.
Yes, you are.
I am, and I enjoy it.
Awesome.
I mean,
Team
much
member.
like my fellow vet across the room here,
Yes.
we improv, we move on our feet, we
That's
make
right.
it happen.
That's right.
So,
That's who we are.
you got the right man for the job.
You bet.
So we'll pick up where we left off. Before we went into break, we were talking about this key of the month, which is you're in the wrong place. And I asked Dr. J, you told us in your life obviously, like you said, the facts were telltale signs of how you knew you were in the wrong place with the D's and F's,
Yep.
C's and D's rather. Because
Speak.
obviously you got, you've worked your way all the way to getting the ultimate degree. So it wasn't like you're not good at school or you're not good at getting good grades. Like it was just like you're in the wrong place. So what are some of the other like telltale signs, like whether it's with your students or other people in your life that you've seen that they're in the wrong place?
Oh, yeah. That's a great one. So one thing that I really love doing with our high school students at Tucson International Academies is I like to spend time with them talking about different kind of issues in the world. And there's a lot of problems in the world, and it's a thought ideology that every person is, put in the places that they're in to solve certain problems. And so how do you know which problem to solve? Because I can think of a whole bunch of them. There's poverty, there's homelessness, there's mindset, there's the sharks, that are being abused in some way, the whales, there's jungle issues, things that are happening in among the big five animal groups that are just atrocious. There's a lot of issues, and I'm one that responds fairly easy to those. Excuse me. And so one of them is
yeah, I get what you're saying as far as there's all these different issues and that are out there in the world, and how does one really know which one to take on? All you the first step is to know to look. But I'll let you finish what you're saying.
So, so first you have to be aware of things that are out there, because a lot of times students don't see themselves as having the power to make a difference in those issues. I mean, they think, well, I'm just a kid. What can I do? But you have to empower them. You have to show them, first of all, your voice makes a difference. Your ability to talk about it, your ability to write about it. How can you bring this to light?
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess, I'll turn this kind of to our other guests that we have in studio. I have Mr. Goris and we have Mrs. Stevens in studio with us. And what are some of the times in your lives where you've seen the telltale signs that you're in the wrong place, and thankfully you caught it and made some type of deviation?
Yeah, I can jump in here. Yeah, I was really relating to what Dr. J was saying, because I had a similar experience in my university career. I went to school in Canada. I went to school at Carleton University, which is in Ottawa.
Okay.
And when I was there, my first year, it felt okay, but it didn't feel really, really good. And I'd always been an academic. I'd always really loved learning and just studied everything that I could.
Yeah,
and,
you
and
look
always
really smart, for sure. Yeah.
Well, she is. I don't know.
Yeah, you look kind of smart, Mr. Goris. Yeah.
She looks really smart.
Yeah.
I don't even have my glasses on. But anyway, so I was kind of confused of why I wasn't loving this experience. And I felt in a way I'd almost been pushed a little bit too hurriedly into the decision of what to study. Yeah. Maybe not necessarily where to study or that I wanted to study and pursue a degree, but perhaps the subject was not exactly something I had thought about too much. So I was studying humanities, and that's a really broad term for a bunch of old stuff. Like we studied the Bible the first year, so we studied the Old Testament. The next year we were going to move into philosophy. And while I was enjoying learning the foundational aspects of our world today, I was missing that current sort of discussion about how those impacted maybe current day society or how we can make a difference in current day society. It was very hypothetical. And I was sitting in a philosophy class second year, and they were trying to have a discussion about which very old Greek philosopher was more jealous of what other very old Greek philosopher. And
definitely
all of my
Socrates.
Definitely I mean, Socrates is my favorite for sure. But all my classmates seemed very invested in this, and they were all very excited to discuss who was more jealous than the other person. And I was sitting there and I was just like, this does not mean a thing to me. Like, why do I care? like, there's real stuff happening in the world. Why do I care about these old people? So it was at that point I left that room and I was like, I don't think I'm going to go to another class here. And much to the disappointment of my family, I actually dropped out of school at that point. And I say dropped out lightly because I actually re-enrolled like a week later for the next semester in a new subject matter. So I always knew I would get that degree. That was never a fear for me. But dropping out was a really hard thing to do because it comes with a lot of judgment.
Yeah.
And not that I would want to encourage dropping out at all, but if you know it's not the right place for you, sticking around for longer than you have to is also not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So it was hard. It was a really hard decision. It came with a lot of tears and my family was not very happy. But I ended up getting a degree in global development studies, which felt much more current to me. I really enjoyed my classes and that of course got me to where I am today.
Nice.
And that's exactly what happened with me and what we try to have the kids think through is that there has to be a relevance to what they're talking about and what we're studying and what we're writing and reading about. And there's so many issues that can be touched, especially with social media. Think of the good we can do in the whole world. Like you can still touch Canada, you can still touch Netherlands, you can still touch wherever, Iraq, wherever. We have the ability to reach and to touch all over the world with social media. So now that we have that big of an opportunity, it feels kind of like we have a bigger role to play. And so figuring out what is the question what is the problem in the world that most causes you, upset is usually a good indicator actually of what is for you. And so that's we kind of talked about this one time. For you, it's the homeless vets, and you can relate to that, and it's something you feel like you have dedicated your life to that issue. And I really like that issue. That's why I like working with you. But if you put that alongside helping families break the generational poverty by making college come true, that is even more exciting to me. But that's because I have insight on how I can impact that. I have some ideas about homelessness, but not that much. But I can bring a whole lot to the table on the issue of poverty and what education can do for you as like generational issues in family lines. How when one person goes to college, seems like now you've started a new tradition where more will go to college. And as they go to college, it does bring the economic factor up. That's in research, it's proven over and over again. And so it's not all about the money though. If what you're doing is not relevant, you're going to drop out. That would be me too. I am not a good faker. They say fake it till you make it. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have to latch onto something a little heavier than that.
Nice. Brought to you by Tucson International Academy. I am Pastor John McClain here with the Dr. J, also known as Dr. Jennifer Herrera, in the fancy boardrooms that I'm sure she attends regularly because she's just a fancy lady.
Well, thank you. I'm going to take that as a nice compliment.
It's
thank you.
It's absolutely a compliment. I got nothing but nice things to say about you. You're one of my favorite people. So we also have some educators. We have a lot of educators in the room here. I feel like I feel smart. We got Mrs. Stevens here, an educator with Tucson International Academy at the Midvale campus. For those that have been in those parts, if you haven't been to the Midvale campus, go check it out, because not only does it have Mrs. Stevens, but it has Mr. Goris, Mr. G over there in the corner, like quiet, politely being quiet. They didn't teach us that in the military, did they?
Absolutely not.
No, yeah. So we'll have you pick up, where we left off, Mr. Goris, where we're talking about. Mrs. Stevens articulated it perfectly right after Dr. J almost died from a coughing fit. Yes, thank you. But and Dr. J pointed out, they both tell some great stories of how kind of like they caught it. Ooh, good, caught it. Didn't mess up my life. Telltale sign. What about you in your life? There's a telltale sign that caught you that you luckily changed directions before it went too far?
Oh, absolutely. I got two, actually, as a matter of fact. Nice, two of these aha moments.
Well, you deserve at least two for how much we've quieted you to.
Okay, that's fine. So at an early age, I live in a country, and I didn't feel like this is my country. I don't know exactly where that feeling came from. I felt out of place. I had a hard time understanding the culture, the habits, the way that people are. I just felt like I'm this little kid that's not part of the game. I stand on the outside, and I really didn't know what it was or how come. So a little bit later on in my life, I actually went on vacation to the United States, and it's a true story.
Nice.
And I got here. Not only had I had a deja vu moment when I got to Phoenix, like, hey, I've been here before, and I know for sure I've never been here, but it felt comfortable. And as I'm going through our vacation and I'm going back where I come from, it's like, hey, I want to experience more of what goes on in this country. The 24-hour economy, we don't have it. Filling up your tank for $10, we don't have it. There was something about this country that made me feel at ease. So fast forward a couple more years later, I live here, and that was like I felt out of place. There were no signs really for me to pick up the what or the how, but I did know that this is my destiny. This is the place I need to be, and ever since I haven't looked back. I live here, and I try to be as successful as possible to be a productive member of society. Another thing that came up, and it is kind of in line what Dr. J said, what Ms. Stevens said. Later on in life, I decided, because I just had high school, that was enough for me. I can work my way up with just high school, but there come a point where you got to really reevaluate where you are and what you want to do to advance your life. So I went to school. I went back to college when I was in my 40s. There's nothing wrong with it, obviously. And that military structure, the rank and file, organization skills, I decided I was going to do accounting because that is straightforward. That is just as simple as it gets. So I made it up to my master's in business administration, and I wanted to get a PhD because I got the education bug, and I really feel like I can do this. I could put it on my wall, if anything. So I get to the point where I have to get my dissertation. I set everything up, and I have to have arguments, and I have to go to a panel of my peers. And the only thing I felt like I'm not good enough. They were arguing with me, kind of like pushing back. And here I was, just kind of like what Dr. J said about their experience in business 101. I'm paying for this. I need your support. I don't need you to tell me what's wrong. Yes, I need that constructive criticism, but don't just break everything apart where it feels like, hey, what am I really doing here? Am I ever going to be successful with this? Can I hang it on the wall? So I got discouraged. I tried really hard, but it was just not something that I could overcome. So I just was done with it. Then I become an educator, and now it's like, you know what, I can get another master's degree, and I can go back to school, and I focus now on education. What can I personally do? What can I learn that we can implement in our school to make it even better? It's already great, but there's always room for improvement.
Always.
And that's kind of like why I went back to school and why I'm trying to finish this second master, so I can be that additional influence in a positive way that our school can get to the next level. The students that we have, they deserve that next level. By giving that extra, they are prepared even more for that major jump from high school to college, and then from college ultimately, hey, where's your path is going? Are you going to get a job? Whatever it is that you decide to do. So that was kind of like my two aha moments in life. First of all, I didn't feel comfortable where I come from, so that made me leave. And then in my education, I kind of had the same thing. What am I doing? Do I really need this PhD? People were just not supportive. They were against it. And everything from there is history, pretty much.
And that's wild, man. It's like every time I meet you, I learn something new. You're an impressive dude. Let me start with that.
Thank you. Thanks.
And secondarily, I guess the big question I have is, I mean, I ask Dr. J questions like this all the time, just because she's another really impressive person. Like, when you're trying to do these, like, really what some would see as impossible milestones, like, what got you through it? Like, what sustained you?
I think in my personal case, it's just the toughness and the perseverance. Obviously, you come to a point where you just have to give up the fight. When you really feel like this fight doesn't go anywhere, it is better to put your energy into another path where you can be more successful. I think we all have that in us. I see it in our students. They know where they are, and they want to go to the next level. They're just not sure of themselves if they can do this for whatever reasons, and Dr. J can write a book about that as well, right? Because we should be aware of our community. Those are the people we serve, and I think that we really got our finger on where the community, who we serve. We know our kids. And we all have it in us. We all are fighters no matter what. And this COVID, yes, it knocked mankind back a little bit, but it's not the end of it. It's just another step that we take. We come out of this stronger. We are writing history. Isn't that amazing that we actually, as mankind right now, are writing history?
Yes.
And the next generation is going to look back at us as like, oh, listen, they actually dealt with this in this and this way. So anything
that's a magical little thought that you put there. Just thinking of like
we're
our
writing
great
history.
grandkids, just be like, yeah, our great grandpa had to deal with COVID, and then this happened. They wore masks all the time. No, they didn't. Yeah, really, they wore masks.
They had to.
Yeah, that's magical. Okay, well, we're going to be back with these fine folks after these messages. You guys hang in right there. This is the Make It College Come True radio show, brought to you by Tucson International Academy. Definitely go to TucsonInternationalAcademy.com if you haven't already. If you got a kid age K through 12 that you want to go to college, this is the place to go. We'll be back right after this break. Brought to you by Tucson International Academy. I am Pastor John McClain here with the superintendent of Tucson International Academy, Dr. Jennifer Herrera.
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 Herrera. I can't even say it right. It's my own name.
Herrera.
Wow.
Yeah. See,
It's a fancy version.
I married a Mexican woman. What can I say? It happens. So, as we were saying before the break, we were talking about telltale signs of how you know you're in the wrong place. Being an educator, a superintendent, probably once a principal, having worked with kids in so many different capacities, I'll open it up first to you, Dr. J, and then we'll go around the table clockwise and ask everybody else, how have you helped people find the right place?
I love this question. This is probably the most fulfilling thing for me to do. And that is to see this young person with all this energy and all their life ahead of them and getting to help them basically plot the first course. And I believe there'll be many courses. As I was saying before, people in their 50s have 3 to 4 different careers, but the generations younger than mine, I have like 12.
Yeah.
So they may have 12 different little skewed ways of serving and making a living. And so what I believe is it does come back to belief. Okay. So it's like your foundational beliefs really play a big role. And so for me, something that somewhere along the line I got was that location is important. So when Mr. Goris was talking about what country he lived in, that was pretty, that I would have to say, yeah, that is true. Because I was born and raised in Indiana, and I loved it there, and I never planned to leave. But what happened for me was when I came out to Arizona just for a student teaching opportunity, a rare one, I had an overwhelming acceptance of the people, of Mexican people. And I just fell in love with the culture, and I thought, oh my gosh, man. And sometimes I thought, maybe I was supposed to be Mexican. I mean, I don't know. It just, I could relate to the family aspects. I could relate to, although I loved my family, we had a great family relationship, but this was a little different. And I just felt very at home. Again, I knew I was supposed to be there. So I ended up marrying a Mexican. And that made a difference because here I came into agreement with that culture. And then as I saw the culture and got to know them, I started noticing the social injustices. And I thought, wow, okay, so they're really smart and all, but how come this child did not even consider college? Why would they not consider college? Well, it is cultural in that if your family, and that's any culture, if your family has not gone to college generally, their chances of going to college later are not as high. And so it's knowing the system, having it as a value, having it be something that's talked about and promoted and celebrated. What's celebrated gets done. And we know that in our classrooms because that's how we do classroom discipline. We celebrate the good so that there will be more of it. It's the same in families. Whatever's celebrated in that family is what is generally becomes like the light that everyone tries to follow. If it's finances, then people are going to go after the high-paying job but may have a very lack of fulfillment. If the big thing is being a good person and being nice, then they'll maybe miss opportunities to make a good business deal because they didn't feel like it was nice. You know, so there's just so many different things that guide us. So being aware that there are different guidances and to honor those guidances, whether it's from your culture, their culture, from the norms that you see as a professional or whatever it is, that's really important. important that you think through the different things that have built foundations. From that foundation, then you encourage and invite the child on the discovery trip. Discovery trip is different careers. What makes you excited? What is boring to you? What is something that you absolutely have to do something about because you are not going to watch another person suffer? Once you get that last question answered, you're going to find answers. I'm going to quit talking because I'd like to hear these two tell about that.
But they're going to say some interesting stuff. You first, Miss Stevens.
Sure. So I believe the question was about how I help my students find their own way.
Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of have 2 points to this, and I'll try and be brief. The first...
Mr. Goris isn't going to be, so you don't have to be.
Well, the first is I try and offer a variety of different ways to teach the material in my class. I'm an English language arts teacher, so there's a lot of opportunity for that in my field. There's obviously the reading and writing style, but then I have a lot of kids who love to be creative. They love to draw. They love to write poetry. They love to write short stories. I have some of them that really like to act. So when I approach them with a different learning objective, I really try and give them an opportunity to take it where they want to take it in terms of where they feel passion. Whether that's drawing or reading or writing or however they want to do it. So that would definitely be the first one. I at least let them explore their passions.
Nice.
For example, I'm putting on a play with my students this
Sweet.
quarter.
That's
And
neat.
I have some that really do not want to act. So I make them artistic director, or okay, you're in charge of costumes. Okay, you're in charge of music. And now we have this really great mosaic of all these different talents that are coming together, and I'm hoping, cross your fingers, it's not a guarantee, but I'm hoping it'll come together to make something really great at the end of the quarter.
Nice.
Yeah.
So just letting them explore their own passions, I would say, is one thing I try and do to help them. And then another point to make is that TIA offers some experience trips that I think really help show students which direction they want to go in. Normally, every year, we would offer international trips, which I think are hugely important. It's one of the reasons I wanted to work here. I love the fact that we take our kids and we show them an experience like that internationally.
Yeah.
I myself went on an international trip in high school, and it was life-changing for sure. So I think that's huge. But obviously we couldn't do that this year. I was lucky enough to go on the college trip with my students. And that's where we take them for, it's one night, except you spend one night on a bus. So it's kind of 2 nights.
It's a long night.
It's all part of the experience. And they got to see several different university campuses. We toured NAU, we toured GCU, we toured, Embry-Riddle, there it is.
Yeah.
And we went to the Grand Canyon together.
Nice.
And I saw firsthand how an experience like that, just getting out of Tucson with your classmates, not with your family, not with your parents, and seeing university campuses, like some of my students did a complete 180 and were like, I got to go to GCU. Like, this is where I got to go. Or I got to go to NAU.
Yeah.
And they've applied and they've been accepted. And they had no aspiration to go to university at all until we got to get out there and actually see for ourselves these different campuses. So I think exposure is another thing I would like to say helps them see where they want to be in life.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's funny and sad how many people I talk to day to day that, one, never been on an airplane, and two, never been out of Tucson. And it's just, I mean, I guess we were talking about it earlier. We're kind of blessed in this studio, especially even earlier in the studio, we had people that were born in 5 different countries in the studio. And even now, we're, an international bunch in here that have we've all now found our home outside of where we were born. And if it wasn't for that, we may have never felt comfortable. And it just, again, back to the sadness, it's sad that there are people out there probably listening right now that may have never left this city in their whole entire life. And I invite them, get out of the town for a little bit. Go vacationing. Go see something. Go visit Canada. Go visit Holland. Go visit Indiana.
There you go.
Go
There's
visit
an adventure.
Germany where I was born. Do something. And with that, saying that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. G. What's some example of where you helped your students find the right place for them?
Well, I'm very lucky, just like Ms. Stevens, that we have a bunch of very intelligent students. They are eager and hungry to learn. I teach social studies, and let's just boil it down, it's history.
Mm-hmm.
And what I try to teach them, or what I kind of like the mantra where it goes is like, if we don't learn from our history, then history keeps repeating itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is just one of these things, is like, if a student comes from a disadvantaged background, if the student cannot learn from that in a positive way, then the student continues to be in that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
In my travels, I've met a lot of kids that are in that cycle and they will never get out of it. Those kids in Iraq, especially you and I both know, in the situation they live, it's hard for them to get out of anything at this point in time. The kids in Afghanistan, they cannot get out of this, this cycle. They just live
they
for
just
the minute.
Live this week. If
Correct.
they do
They're
that,
surviving.
Right.
Thumbs up. Yeah.
Although we're going to have on 2 teachers from Iraq
There we
who
go.
did move over here, though, for their change.
Yeah. And when you go and you see in a country like India, the kids are stuck in a certain layer of society, and no matter how hard they try, they cannot get out of it based on the history of the country. So I use that to our advantage. Is like, so we're trying to rein them in and trying to show them how the world looks like, and that we have as mankind this awesome opportunity to change what happened in the past. And in order for that to do that, you have to keep it real. Now, the kids live in Midville. We understand their situations, but they have to get empowered. They have to understand at the end of the school year, when I'm kind of like backing off, that we can do this.
Yeah.
That you need to be a peace builder. It has to start somewhere. You have to give that little spark. And how you fill that in, that is your destiny in life. You will find that path, and wherever that goes, you got to be proud of it. You got to just go for it. So today, as a matter of fact, I use that economic term, return of investment. So the students right now are investing in their near-term future or in the long-term future. And I told them they have to go all in. Don't just do a little bit and see if that goes. No, just put all your chips in this basket and trust the system and go for it. Because right now, like I said, if you're in 8th grade, you're going to get promoted to high school. And if you are in 12th grade, you're a senior, you got to get out of high school and go in the big world. So you should have put all your chips already in this, because you are investing in your future. You can put all your chips in a sock and put it underneath your bed. You will never get anything more out of
That's
it.
right.
So education is one of these things that you got to go all in. In order to get to that next step, this could just be your ticket to that next step. And I think that at the end of this school year, that's where I'm at. And that's why I'm trying to show these students and our kids and everybody else, put all your chips in and you'll be good to go.